How's it going, guys? On today's video, I'm going to show you guys how to replace a contact spring and a boot on an ignition coil. Inevitably, at one time or another, we're taking our boot off our spark plug and the contact spring comes off the ignition coil. If you've never fixed these before, it is actually a really quick, easy fix. A lot of times people don't know that they can fix these and they end up replacing the ignition coils. So in today's video, I'm going to show you guys how to do this repair in less than 30 seconds. Before I do jump into the video, I do want to share this one little piece of information with you. If your spark plug boot has been on the spark plug for a while, rotate it several times before you try to pry it off. That is going to help break the contact spring loose, so that way it's not stuck on your spark plug, and chances are it'll save it from popping out like this. Right now I've got a steel BR350 backpack blower on the bench. I've already taken off the shroud and exposed the ignition coil, so I'm going to show you guys step by step how I go about fixing this. The first thing I'm going to do is wipe off the ignition coil wire. This one has a lot of dust and debris on there. That way everything's clean and it slides through the boot easier. The next thing I'm going to do is put some press fluid into the boot. This way it's lubricated when I'm trying to push the ignition coil wire through the boot and out to the other side. You can use any thin oil product, anything that's going to make sure that you don't have any friction. Now I'm going to feed the wire into the bottom of the boot and then come out the top end. Once the wire hits the top of the boot, I'm going to take my needle nose pliers. I'm going to reach in there. It's going to be a tight fit, but I'm going to grab that and I'm going to pull it out the other end. Since there's not a lot of room, sometimes you have to wiggle it around a little bit in order till it can latch on. Once you get a good hold on it, go ahead and wiggle it and pull it through till it pops out. Next, go ahead and locate the hole on the wire. That's where the contact spring goes. Go ahead and push the barb into the wire until it seats. You're going to have to end up taking your needle nose pliers to clamp it down all the way in there. The contact springs don't hold onto that wire very well, so just be careful after you've got it in there not to knock it back off before you get the boot on. Here's a close-up shot. I'm going to lightly pull on the boot till it reaches the contact spring, and then I'm going to take my needle nose pliers, I'm going to stick it inside and push it into the boot the rest of the way. The biggest thing to keep in mind is make sure that you guys are using a lubricant when you're trying to fish that ignition coil line through the boot. That way there's no friction and it slides through easy. Depending on what piece of equipment you guys are repairing, I was doing the backpack blower. Those are a little bit harder. Those are more of a cut 90-degree angle with a little bit longer boot. So you're going to have to be careful when you're putting that contact spring back through there, is sometimes it'll come back off and you'll have to pull it back out and try again. If you're doing a smaller boot like on, let's say, a chainsaw, a lot of those boots are going to be a lot easier to do. So what I'll do is I'll put the contact spring on the spark plug and then I'll pull the boot over top of it and lock it into place. And then I can take it back off really easy and then go ahead and start doing the rest of my repairs on the unit. Depending on the ignition coil, some of the ignition coil lines are really short. You're not going to have a whole lot of room to work with. Sometimes you might have to actually take the ignition coil off the unit to be able to have enough room where you can actually feed that line through the boot and make contact with the contact spring. Another thing to watch out for is the insulation sleeve. Sometimes on ignition coils, there's actually a sleeve that goes on the outside of the wire. If you do have one of those, sometimes there's not enough room where you can get the boot back on, so you'll have to do a little bit of trimming or cut a slit so that way you have enough room to push the boot all the way down, get the ignition coil wire all the way out so you can put the contact spring back on. Once you've done this, it's pretty straightforward, pretty simple. Like I said, literally takes 30 seconds if everything stays in there the way it's supposed to. You don't have to poke a new hole into the ignition wire. Just use the existing hole that the contact spring was in. Usually it's still tight enough to be able to accept that and hold it into place. If you guys found this video helpful, make sure you guys like the video down below and subscribe to my channel. Check out my other great content that I have on there through repairs that come through the shop every day. Thanks for watching the video, and I hope you guys have a great day.